everybody, this is Alchemist2, and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently read Cringeworthy, A Theory of Awkwardness by Melissa Dahl. And this is a very intriguing book on behavioral psychology. And it introduces us to what's known now as the awkward age, and just how a lot of awkward conversations are just completely avoided, and why it shouldn't be so bad to be awkward, because human beings are extremely gangly beings. And of course, my favorite quote is at the very beginning of the book before she gets right into the meat and the coconut. And the quote is, "How embarrassing to be human. Kurt Vonnegut's Hocus Pocus." And actually, Kurt Vonnegut was a writer from Indiana, so claim to fame. But of course, not knowing what you look like. Section 1 is about just not being able to have the perception of oneself. Sometimes it takes an extra pair of eyes. And it talks about micro cues and macro cues, and the inability to read that in other people, and why that's so just embarrassing. And sometimes we need a filter to help us navigate. And I think that in this world of devices, it's more difficult to actually read somebody, and that's one thing that technology has actually robbed from us, I do believe. And I think we should unplug a little bit from our technology, and me doing a video probably doesn't help that much, but it's very interesting what Melissa talks about in her book. And she speaks of different emotions that are very difficult to convey, like contempt. And actually, contempt was one of the characters that they had to cut from Inside Out. They just had joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, because those were the most basic of the emotions. And contempt was another, and then there was yet another emotion. I forget the name of this particular one, but they had to cut that as well, because it was one that was a little bit more abstract in the way that we understand it, as well as we can understand emotion. And that in and of itself is a very intriguing conversation, I think. But she talks about everything from having a Hanson playlist to why she doesn't talk about politics in public. And she has a show called Mortified. And at first she didn't want to do it because she had an overwhelming fear. And of course, that's another thing. That's one thing I can relate to. It's just that whole, oh my God, everybody's looking at me, and I really don't want to be the center of attention here, even though I like being the center of attention if it's good attention. But if it's just attention for attention's sake, and not knowing why I'm getting all that attention, I get a little bit self-conscious. And she speaks about that. That's the whole chapter on being self-aware. And this is one of those, she said this was in the self-growth book, self-growth section. I personally think this should be in psychology, because it's more descriptive, and what we go through as human beings, and just being the way we are. And it's fascinating. It really is. I'm glad that I picked it up. It was very short, and I'm actually going to read a little bit about if I can get to Melissa's bio on the back here. She's a senior editor at the New York's The Cut. She covers health and psychology. In 2014, she co-founded New York's popular social science site, the Science of Us. Her work has appeared in Elle, Parents, and on Today. Cringeworthy is her first book. Good for you. Yeah, I didn't know that this was actually her first. But the front leaflet describes the book in better words than I ever could, so I'm going to go ahead and read it, because I think that this description just is better When you hear your own voice played back, when there's silence after speaking up in a meeting, when your neighbor says hi and you say, good, it's cringeworthy. But what if the moments that make us feel most awkward are actually the most valuable? Sometimes we all feel as if our fears of teenage awkwardness have never ended. We are sorry we're doing or saying the wrong things, while everyone else seems to have it all together. Yeah, I can definitely relate. Melissa Dahl, the co-founder of New York's magazine Science of Us, is no stranger to awkward situations. After a lifetime of cringing, she became intrigued by awkwardness, a universal but underappreciated emotion. So Dahl set out in pursuit of the truth of awkwardness and discovered that cringeworthy situations can actually enrich your life. Also, very true and accurate. Right. Instead, the things that make us cringe can remind us how connected we truly are. In this witty and compassionate book, Dahl explores the oddest, cringiest corners of our world. And they're really funny, a lot of the examples that she gives from real life. That she chats with strangers on the busy New York subway, goes on awkward friend dates using a Tinder for Friendship app. It takes improv comedy lessons, that's the mortified, and even reads aloud from her highly embarrassing middle school diary to a crowd of strangers. I could never do that. God love you. After all of that, she realizes awkward moments are opportunities to test yourselves. Actually, I'm going to reread that. Awkward moments are opportunities to test yourself. When everyone else is pretending to have it all under control, you can be a little braver and grow a little bigger while remaining true to yourself, your awkward self. Along the way, you might even find the awkward moments unite us in our mutual human ridiculousness. And that's pretty much the crux of the whole book, honestly. And I think that if anyone's interested in psychology, psychiatry, behavioral health, behavioral science, it's really quite fantastic. And I expressively recommend it because I'm really drawn to books that enrich us all as a human beings, enrich us all, yeah, good English there, alchemist, that enrich us all as human beings. Until next time, live long, prosper. Ciao, tutti.